I'll record on my computer. I'll record on my computer.
It says it's recording.
No, it is. It's just on my computer, not on the cloud. So go ahead, Paul.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have much, but I was asked to, look up a little bit about history of Advent, about which I knew absolutely nothing. And of course, I suppose the most obvious thing to say is it's a winter solstice celebration. And the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, has had, kind of religious import long before Christianity. It's commemorated in many different traditions, but interestingly enough, not in the Jewish tradition, because Jews use a lunar calendar, and of course, this is a solar event. The most relevant earlier celebration for us is the Roman celebration of a holiday called Saturnalia, which was at this time of year. And from at least the time of Julius Caesar, the 1st of January has been the beginning of the year for the civil year. Interestingly enough, December 25th, as part of Saturnalia, was the date, the birthday of the sun god. And so you can't help but wonder whether that wasn't why Christmas was established when it was. You may not know that December 27th wasn't established as the birthday of Christmas, of Jesus, until about 400 AD by Pope Julius I. It seems pretty likely that they wanted to co-opt the 25th of December for Christian purposes.
And what was it before? It was the birth of the sun god? Is that what you said?
Birth of the Roman sun god, Sol Invictus. And there's nothing in scripture that tells us about the time of the year. All the traditional stories they're wonderful, but they don't link it to a particular event. Interesting enough, they don't link it to any Jewish holiday either. So it was kind of fair game. It's only a century later, about 500 AD, that we have the first mention of Advent involving special prayers and fasting. And it's only around 1100 that Advent came to mark the beginning of the liturgical year. And I must admit, I looked a lot. I couldn't find any reason why the liturgical year starts then. It seems to me it would have made more sense to start at Easter or Christmas, but it doesn't for whatever reason. Coincidentally, Christians traditionally use Easter as the first of the year, so that it's not until 1600 that January 1st became the first of the year in the Christian West. And I have to share with you, as a medieval historian, that's a terrible problem, because whenever you read a document I read a lot of documents from the 1400s, and if it happens in March or April, you never know what year it is without looking up to see when Easter was, because it matters whether it was before. And so you have some years that are more than 365 days, and other years that are less than 365 days, depending on when Easter is. But that's a petty problem for everybody else. Anyway, from about the 1580s on, January became the first year, but I don't ever thought about it. We've kept the old traditional numerological names for our months. So September is from sept, the French word for 7. October obviously relates to the 8th month, November to the 9th month, December to the 10th month. So kind of built in the names of our months, there's this older calendar, just kind of interesting to think about. But it's in 1582 that Pope Gregory established what we now call the Gregorian calendar, which is what we're on now. And of course, as you know, in the Eastern Church, they still adhere to the Julian calendar. And that's why, Easter and Christmas and things like come 2 weeks later for Greek Orthodox and people like that. Advent is the Latin word for coming. So it's the Latin word for the Greek word parousia. It's a period of waiting, both of nativity and of the second coming. Throughout most of its early history, Advent was kind of like a mini version of Lent. It was something you were anticipated both the birth of Christ and the second coming of Christ. And even now, if you look at the liturgy, the weeks of the liturgy for the weeks of the day talks a lot about the end of the second coming, whereas it's Sundays where we talk about the nativity. The only other thing I found is that, to my amazement, how modern all our current traditions of Advent are. Modern celebrations that stress the nativity, obviously, but Advent wreaths were actually introduced by Lutherans in the 1500s, and the earliest known use of the Advent candles is from 1839, and so it's a very recent tradition that we celebrate now, or at least the way we work it out in terms of symbolism. That's it. That's all I got.
Wow, that was a lot.
Yeah, appreciate that. So I'm glad to know that we're open to new ideas and new
Yep.
celebrations. So
Yes. And speaking of that, I'm going to switch things around because after listening to Paul, the Holy Spirit inspired me to say, who wants to share what they did as a tradition in Advent as a child, or with your family, what you do now? Okay.
I was raised Baptist, and I was totally unaware of Advent until I became an Episcopalian.
One thing that I wanted to share, just as a family thing, was that our daughter was asked to hold the candle and light it for Advent one year, and she was really unhappy because the minister dropped wax on her hand. So we didn't do a whole lot of Advent celebration when I was growing up, when I was a kid, but I do have this memory for one of our kids, now that the church we were going to did celebrate Advent, but I do know that there's an argument about that whether or not you should sing Christmas carols before Christmas, whether or not Advent is suited for singing Christmas carols, or you should wait until Christmas is actually here, which is just there are just so many twists and turns that matter a whole lot to some people, and other people have never even heard that it was a problem.
Thank
I
you.
was raised in the Methodist church, and the only thing we did during Advent was sing Christmas carols.
Awesome.
That was it.
I went to, this is Kim. I went to I can't concentrate today. I've always had an Advent candle or Advent wreath as a child. And so just always, having that at the table and lighting them each one for the week. And I carried that on with my children. I still have one, and I pull out the same one every year. And I also have like a book of readings that I try to do each Sunday with each new Advent week that corresponds to the lighting of the candles. So I like them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I actually used to get, we didn't have, or I have no memory of it as a child, but even when I first became aware of it, I always got it confused with Hanukkah because of the candles, and the Hanukkah celebration involves lighting candles too. So it was really quite late in life before I learned that they weren't the same thing.
That's awesome.
I was raised a Methodist, so I had no clue about that sort of thing until I met my wife. I became an Episcopalian because that's what we were going to be. And so then we started doing, Advent prayers and lighting candles and whatnot after our marriage. But up to that point, I had no idea.
I like, because that's what we were going to be, Jan.
I have a friend who is a devout Catholic, and many years ago, when I first started working at St. Luke's in the children's ministry, she and I were meeting for lunch, and she was talking about Advent, and I kind of knew what it was because I'm an Episcopalian also. But at St. Luke's, we lit the wreath on Sundays, but there wasn't a whole lot more around it in terms of formation and education. And my friend gave me an Advent devotional book, like probably similar to the one that Kim, you mentioned reading. And it unlocked so much richness in our tradition around why we do what we do for Advent and what the liturgy and the readings leading up to Christmas are all about. So from that point forward, we started in Children and Family Ministries offering the resources that are now on the table during Advent for people to pick up and use, including wreaths and candles. We even did an Advent, I can't remember what we called it, we did Advent wreath making and an Advent fair, an event to teach our children what the 4 weeks were about: hope, love, peace, and joy. So I credit my friend for sparking what is going on at St. Luke's now around learning more about Advent traditions.
That's cool. And if you guys haven't looked at those resources in the back of the church, there's so many of them. Craig and I got one to use with our Advent wreath, but yeah, good. There's resources for kids and all kinds of stuff. So I recommend you checking it out this Sunday. Anyone else?
I'll share some. My raised in a pretty staunch Catholic family. I remember Advent being a lot like Lent, and all about preparation. We my family didn't put up a Christmas tree until Christmas Eve, and we had a nativity up from the beginning of December, probably the first Sunday of Advent. I'm not sure. We had an Advent wreath, and we had a nativity without a baby Jesus. And the baby Jesus didn't show up until Christmas morning. And then the tree went up. And then I just had this horrible memory of somewhere along our parent, we didn't have a lot of money, and my dad was a school teacher, but somewhere we had 6 kids. And growing up, I was the second oldest, so I was old enough to know that was too many kids, and so I just remember when those Advent calendar things came out, where they had the door with the chocolate, and I'm not sure where it came from or if it was a gift to my dad because he was a school teacher, but I just remember we had one calendar with 6 kids, and I remember we had to take turns, so every 7th day we got to be the one to eat the chocolate, and then the next 5 times, we got one, and then the next 5 days was another kid, each kid, and then we got to do it again. So anyway, I just remember that being a nightmare, and all I know is I made Advent really special for my kids when they were growing up, and it was more of a celebration, and I'll be darned if I didn't buy 3 of those Advent calendars, so each one of my kids could each open a chocolate every single day.
Of course you did.
So it was kind of backwards, messed up, but yeah, my memories of Advent weren't positive.
I'm sure each of us have those things that we did as parents that were compensating for what we don't feel like was done well for us. So it's cool.
Yeah, I'm sure they meant well at the time.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay, so I'll share, because I wasn't as strict as Kim's. Like, we put our Christmas tree up early. I'm one of 6 as well. And I seem to remember that, I think it was that if it was your night to clean up the kitchen, you also got to light the Advent wreath, which was a big deal. And my parents did the Advent. We would have like a devotional, and then my mom would do a reading about Christmas traditions. So it was a more fun reading. And then we all ended with the prayer, "Come, Lord Jesus, come and take birth in our hearts." And I did that with my kids and I let them light the candle. But I remember one night I was late to dinner and I was afraid I was going to lose. It was my night and I didn't want to lose it. And I didn't. It was okay. But anyway, let's go ahead. She's going to talk about, as Nancy mentioned, that each week of Advent has a theme. And tonight's theme is hope. And I don't know if you had a chance to read the pre-reading about hope. But I think one of the things that I just really love about this is she says in the middle here, and she'll talk about this, but I have to wonder if we sometimes miss the activity of God because he doesn't show up like the way we expect him to, just like the ancient Jews waiting for their Messiah to come. Sometimes God works in ways we don't expect and would often never choose. I don't want to miss what he's doing, so I need to position myself to recognize and embrace his activity. And she's going to talk a little bit about that tonight, but I thought that was particularly thoughtful about being prescriptive with God or versus just letting him work and recognizing when he works. Did anybody get anything else out of the reading? I'd be surprised if you read it because I sent the email 3 times. So my apologies about that. But anyway, let's go ahead and watch the video and then we'll have some more discussion. And it is. Should only have had one window open. Let's try this. Now, if you guys can see the everyday Advent.
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome
Yes.
stuff.
We're in week 1 of our Advent series.
Can you hear it?
This week is about hope. And if you have the tradition in your family or church of lighting candles as we move towards Christmas, this first one is known as the prophet's candle. And it's all about the hope and expectancy that the ancient Jews would have had as they were looking forward to their coming Messiah. Every prophet of the Old Testament had talked about a day when a savior would come for his people. And so the Jews were looking forward to the arrival of their Messiah. But unfortunately, when he came, he didn't come like they expected or maybe anticipated or wanted. And so unfortunately, a lot of them failed, for the most part, to recognize what God was doing and actually perceive that Jesus was the promised Messiah. And still to this day, a lot of the Jewish people don't see that the Messiah has come. And as Christians, we believe that Jesus was the Messiah, the Savior of the world, that he came to take away our sins and give us eternal life. But Jesus didn't die just to get us into heaven. He actually died so that we would have life. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." He said that he had come to destroy the works of the devil and all of the effects that sin has in our life, and that he had come to give us life and that we would live it more abundantly, or to the fullest, some versions say. But a lot of times we fall short of living in that abundance or that full life that Jesus has promised us. But our hope and our expectation every day is that he's being revealed more and more through our lives. I've been following the Lord for a long time. I grew up in church, and all of my adult life, I have been trying to follow God as best as I can. And I can honestly say that over the years, his love, his grace, all of the attributes of his character and nature have been revealed to me more and more. I heard it said recently that, the Christian life for most of us is about trying to show God how much we love him. But the truth is that the Christian life is all about God showing us how much he loves us and revealing in us and through us his nature to the rest of the world. My hope isn't just in my safe arrival at heaven one day, but there's this living hope alive inside of me all of the time that is waiting to see the promises of God revealed in my life. I want more of him every day. And I believe that this is actually how we are supposed to live as believers, in this place of expectancy and hope and anticipation every day, looking for what God is doing. And sometimes I'm afraid that we are a little bit like the Israelites, and we have this tendency to miss out on what God is doing because we expect him to show up in our lives at a certain time or in a certain way, and we kind of put him into a box. And we need to understand that God is always moving and he's always working, but we don't always know how he's working or exactly what he's doing behind the scenes, but we can trust him that he is. And that is where our hope lies, in that place of just being able to trust that his activity is all around us. And what I want to kind of challenge us with this day or this week, I guess, as we're thinking about the idea of hope, is how often are we actually asking God and actively looking for his activity in our lives? Psalms chapter 5, verse 3 says this: "Listen to my voice. In the morning, Lord, each morning I bring my request to you and I wait expectantly." The psalmist David was saying here, I'm bringing what I need. I'm letting you know what my requests are, God, and I'm waiting with expectancy and anticipation to see how you're going to answer my prayers. And I believe this is how every believer should be living, that every day we're bringing our requests before God and we're waiting with expectation to see how his love is going to be revealed to us. And I know, I want to end with this, because I know that sometimes when we've been waiting for a promise of God and we feel like we've been waiting for a long time, and maybe there's been disappointments because we've had expectations and we thought it was going to be answered by now. We thought that promise would have come alive in our life by now. We look at our life, we look at our family or our marriage or the things that aren't yet seeing God revealed, and we just go, I'm disappointed or I'm disheartened because I'm not seeing the activity of God. But I want to challenge all of us to actually ask God, where can I see you working today? Can you reveal yourself to me? I want to see what you're doing every day. I started to do this probably a couple of years ago. It was one of my New Year's challenges to start actually actively looking for the ways that God was working in my life. And every morning when I get up, I pray and I declare his promises. And every day, at the end of the day, when I lay in bed and I'm falling asleep, I say, God, show me where you were at work today. And he does. He shows me little things here and there where he's at work in my everyday life. This is how we make hope a part of our everyday life, by looking for what God is doing and asking him to reveal himself to us.
Did anybody else feel like that was jam-packed with lots of wisdom? Well, let me just hit on a couple of them and see what you guys think. She talked about the Christian life is not about showing God how much we love him. It's about God showing us how much he loves us. Anyone have a reaction to that?
I thought that was a kind of flipping the script a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we live in, I think, at least in Western civilization and postmodern culture, very performance-based sort of mindset. And so we want to show God how much we love him, to be able to sit back and receive his grace, his love, his forgiveness, merely because we are his children and because for no other reason. I think it's really hard for at least for me to accept it. So yeah, I thought that was pretty challenging, not in a negative way, but just, whoa, yeah, got to think about that statement.
Yeah, I think we not only need to listen, we need to look. And you're right, we do need to be more aware of those blessings that we are receiving. And we often just rush by without even noticing them. So it's good at the end of the day to maybe reflect on those blessings. And that's part of the Thanksgivings that we should be, don't like to use that word should, that we could be doing each evening.
And you know what, Carol, I as I was listening to her, I was remembering like when she went back into that, I was like, I've heard this theme somewhere else. And so Carol and I are in the Women's Guild and we're reading a book, An Altar in the World. And the last chapter we read said exactly the same thing. Oftentimes I can just miss when God's at work and just dismiss it, or I can stop and be present to it. And I thought that was kind of cool. It was the same theme, like he's working even when we don't realize it.
And when things aren't going our way and we don't feel that our prayers are being answered, they are. We just may never, ever see the result of those answers. And I really try to accept that I may not see the outcome.
Right. What did you guys think of, and then we're going to get the questions where everybody has to participate. I learned that from Paul last time, where we go around the room. But what did you think about her practice of saying at the end of the day, or I usually do my prayers in the morning, but show me where you were at work.
I have to admit that I found it confusing. The whole, a lot she had to say was of great value, but I kept looking for a discussion of hope, and I didn't see the connection between what she was talking about and the idea that this is a week where we focus on hope. I just wonder if anybody saw some linkage there that I missed about. David, you got.
Yeah, we didn't do it. Okay, never mind.
Go ahead and say something now that you've got it up.
No, I was missing I was looking for another one that was going to be on hope. I was thinking this was the introduction because I'm with you. There wasn't a whole lot of discussion on hope. I picked up, tell God what you want and be expectant. And I don't know, to a certain degree, it came off kind of arrogant.
Interesting. Okay.
I think, I don't know, I guess for me, talking about expectancy, meaning leaning into something good is going to happen. Or God is going to show up. So I'm placing my hope and faith in that possibility or that probability. So yeah, she wasn't overtly talking about hope per se, but that's the connection that I made with that theme, I think, Paul.
That was kind of what I had too, because the note that I took for the question, but I want to have another question as well, is where do we want or hope to see God working this Advent or now in our lives? And I think that's what she was saying is like I got two messages from it. Know that God is faithful, know that, but also know you may never see him, the answer to it, like Carol just said, or he'll probably show up in a way you didn't expect. But I'd like to, does anybody else have anything they want to share?
One thing that I was thinking about is that I remember being in an exercise where people put down things that had happened, and then you were supposed to kind of discuss how things fit together. And it was easier to kind of assess things and analyze them when they were a little bit more in the past. But the closer you got to the present, it was hard to see how things were going.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of when she said, I try to think about my day, that I think it's hard to know sometimes when you're in the middle of something, how it's going to go. And so that's hearing her, that's it can lead to hoping that things are going to work out well. But she wasn't particularly explicit about that, but in the kind of general idea that when you're assessing in the current time, it's really, you don't really know sometimes what's you can look back sometimes and think, oh, now I understand. but at the time, it's can be hard to see trends.
Well, let's do this, and I'm going to give you all a minute to think about it. But and I'd like for us all to share is where are you hoping that you will see God at work this Advent? What is on your heart or on your mind that you don't have an answer to, and you're hoping God will show you the answer? Or where do you want peace?
You're going to have to call on people.
I know, I'm letting people think for a minute, Paul. I'm going to go first and then make you go second. So I did have some time to think about this, so I will go first and give you guys a chance to think. There were two areas. One is that Craig and I have tried to do an Advent wreath practice. We've done one every year for the last 3 years, and yet there have been a couple of nights where it felt rushed and would be like, oh wait, we have to do the Advent wreath. And my hope is that God will let us make the space for it every evening as part of our nighttime routine, because I think that if you haven't done it, it's a really beautiful and fun practice. And then the second area is very specific, and I will tell you, in the last 3 days since it all started, I've given it to God a number of times and then taken it right back and worried about it. So, and this is going to sound funny to those of you who work full time, but I built a life around working 10 hours a week and doing volunteer and service and whatever else I do social. And then I went up to 20 hours a week, or I went from 10 to 15 and then to 20 in the last couple of months. And then I was asked to take on a special project, which is great, but now it's 30 hours a week for the next 3 months. I know if you work a full-time job, that seems ridiculous that I can't make time for it, but I have a lot of other things that I put in my life. And so I keep telling God, like, I'm going to trust you through this pilot. And then, you're going to show me if this is a level of activity I want to sustain, or if I need to cut back. And I haven't wanted to let my boss down because they needed me for it, but it's like, I'll trust you and help me to just know what it is you want. Do you want me to be working this much, or is that, just help me process it. And I swear, you guys, every day I've made a decision. This is not what I want to do, but I'm like, I'm not leaving it with God. So anyway, that's where I'm hoping he'll kind of shed some light in the next 4 weeks. Paul, you're next.
Well, actually, I think I'll share a kind of recent experience. Today was a day of fulfilled hope for me in a very mundane but very powerful way. we picked up our grandchildren after school today, and they came over and helped put up the Christmas tree for our house. And I know how mundane that sounds, but it's talking about the difference between anticipation and hope. I anticipated the event and I hoped that they would enjoy it. I mean, obviously at some level kids enjoy Christmas, but it just turned out to be a wonderful afternoon in a way that you couldn't you couldn't plan it that way. Just they were in the right mood and everybody had fun, and the timing worked out perfectly, and it was just a wonderful afternoon. And I can't trivial though it is, I just it's as good an example of hopes fulfilled as I can think of. And the whole Christmas season is filled with so many events that you can you anticipate. You have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, but there's still hope there. The other thing I wanted to say, since everybody else is going to have some, this is my last shot. I did want to say that I bet one thing you all, when thinking about hope this week, the one thing you all, even very few have actually read the Divine Comedy, but I think one of the things we all know from it is that when Dante walks into hell, he walks through a gate where the words on top of it are, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." And it just seems to me that life without hope is hell. And we need that hope.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Wow.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, Dave, and then Kim.
Wow. I'm not sure where to go for that tonight. Hopefully Kim has got something
There's
profound.
hope.
I guess my hope would just be the same it usually is on Christmas, since I work in a very commercial world, that God will be apparent to me in the things of every day during this Christmas season, so that I don't lose what Christmas is about.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you. Jan?
Well, I'm in a constant state of confusion. In all this Bible studies I've done or whatnot, this God is telling people to go slay all these people and kill all their wives and children, and all their animals and whatnot, and then we're saved by grace, and there's nothing we can do that will make God abandon us other than denying Jesus. And so in all of that, like I say, I'm in a perpetual state of confusion. But in the other hand, my hope is that, I represent myself in the right way before God and Jesus to deserve the grace that I've gotten. And there's no way that you can ever deserve it. So that's a stupid statement in and of itself, but that's kind of where I am.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Kim C.
Okay, I did really think I was kind of just hadn't really put my mind to it yet, but I guess I was excited about the Bible study for Advent each week. We're going to talk about, so I will have more focus on the season this year, and I guess my hope is to not get too busy with everything going on and work and chaos, and just really prepare myself and devote my time to thinking about what the season means, and like I said, not get caught up in the busyness. So I think that's where I'm at.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Kim H.
Okay, I try to keep things kind of simple, like instead of hoping for things too far in advance. I'm lucky to to just hope that today is good. But I'm so excited that, because everything I do, even though I'm busy and we run a company and I work 80 hours a week or whatever, I am like this seriously to a fault Pollyanna, and that I can't wait till Sunday. And even that Sunday at noon, I can't wait till next Sunday. And I have been so tried not to be negative. I've tried to be positive. I've so hopeful for this period of time that we've been in, personally and then liturgically, speaking for the ministry that I represent and the kids, and bringing people coming back, and people that didn't come back since COVID, people that left the church for whatever reasons. And I cannot wait until Sunday, till I just have this immense, ridiculous hope that this coming Sunday is just fulfills so many people, for whatever reason, that people have been stressed out or took it personally, or got way too, including myself, got just way too bogged down and stressed out about the fact that we didn't have a rector. We're looking for a rector. Then we got a rector, but they're not here yet. And then we need a rector. And I'm almost embarrassed between myself and God, like why did I do that? Like, why? I feel so selfish that I did that, but I'm so hopeful now. I want everybody to feel at peace. If anybody was stressed out about it, like I was, I hope that come Sunday, they're not stressed out anymore. That's what I want.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Thanks for sharing. Okay, Kay, you're up.
I want to do a PS to what Paul said about decorating the tree. And I thought about that earlier when people were saying, well, our tradition was not to put the tree up until Christmas. And I've heard of other people that, one of my best friends growing up, they went out and got their tree right at the last minute. But putting it up with the kids today, and the thing that was so much fun was that the 5-year-old was old enough that he was just enthusiastically finding things and doing stuff, as opposed to just a year ago, he would have been maybe stepping on stuff or tripping or, not able to help. And it reminds me of the bottle of Heinz ketchup that we saw, if you looked at the ads, that and I thought, for me, seeing the Heinz ketchup and the grandma with the grandchild waiting for the ketchup, seeing children excited is just very hopeful. And it's true that if they're your own grandchildren, that adds an element. But seeing that little girl with the bottle of ketchup, I mean, I was plugging for her. I just think that and the fact that, Jesus, when he came as an infant, that's brings meaning. And so I'm hopeful that families can. I know it's been a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
You're Kim was just talking about, there've been a lot of difficult things going on. And I know there've been a lot of articles and papers about how if you have such political differences in your family, how to still talk to people and not let the whole gathering collapse. So that, there's just a lot of tension out there, but seeing little kids just brings hope.
I want to say that I think that I know me personally, and I think most of those of us who are having grandkids age just can feel how special that must have been for you guys. So thank you for sharing it. All right, Eric, you're next.
I don't know. I'm not very well prepared. I'm thinking maybe I'm looking forward to the next 4 days leading up to Hope Sunday, that there will be something in particular I'm hoping for. I don't know. I'm fine with those of y'all who were defending the speaker in the video, or not defending, but making the connection between faith that God is working in the world and hope. So that's where I am. But I'll let you know on Sunday if I come up with something better.
Okay, please do. And I appreciate the candid feedback on the speaker, because we watched it. It seemed, anyway, appreciate the feedback. It's always good. Chris.
Hi. So I didn't grow up celebrating Advent, even though I was Catholic. My mom was Greek Orthodox, and she was kind of cynical because neither the Catholics nor the Greeks would marry her and my dad because they weren't the same. And so she was kind of like, it's kind of like being raised by Mark Twain. So there was no Advent. So for me, this time of year is a hard time of year because I am like a little bear and I want to hibernate. The days are shorter, right? I find myself getting a lot more contemplative. I want to slow down, but I'm also like a matriarch, and I have my nonprofit and the ministry right now. God is blessing. And so that means there's lots to do. So my hope is to really embrace Advent and even embrace myself the way God made me, which is to slow down and to take the time I need, maybe to grieve, and at the same time to watch God move in the trailer park and in our church. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. Nancy.
Well, I think I want to say to Paul particularly, not so much Kay, because she didn't say this, but Paul, nothing that happened with decorating the tree was trivial or mundane. It was, those were holy moments. Our daughters are 25 and 27, and I am still overwhelmed with joy when they come home and help to decorate our tree. Our tree is, I saw a meme about this, is like Joy threw up in our living room. It is not a color coordinated tree. We have ornaments that we have collected from all over the place for the past 30 something years of our marriage, and there's some weird things on the tree, but all of them evoke a memory. Some of them are from my parents, they from everywhere. And every time we pull out that box, as messy as it is and as weird as it looks, it's so special, and it's still special. And my kids are 20 to 22 years older than the ones who are in your home today doing the same thing. And it still means a lot. And it is about hope and anticipation and joy and expectation and peace and love, to have that time with them, and watch them and be with them and enjoy them. So nothing about it was trivial or mundane or anything that you couldn't claim as being absolutely perfect.
Very good said.
I'll add that one of the things hanging on our tree was made by our son when he was 5. He's turning 50 this year.
Mhm.
And
See?
it's not the most beautiful thing on the tree. And one of the things on our mantelpiece was made by Kasha
Yeah.
when she was probably 8. So
Mhm.
I just second what you said, Nancy, about it's not whether or not anybody else looking at our tree would think, oh, wow, what a beautiful tree. But our grandchildren thought it was a beautiful tree.
And it is a beautiful tree.
Yep.
Yes, it has its own beauty.
Yes.
And I think to just add a little bit more, so this year, you know, who knows, we sometimes add more people to the experience. And many years ago, we added the person who is now Bailey's husband to decorating our tree with all these weird things. And it just, you know, there's a generational thing around it too, that's also special.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Mike and Lori, we're getting close on time, but we have time for you both and Carol.
Okay, well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, one of the things that I think is so special about Christmas is the chance you get to go against all the commercialism and teach your children the real meaning of Christmas. And we did that with our kiddos, and we're doing it with our grandkids. And to me, seeing Christmas stuff in the stores in September is heresy. I cannot stand it. I think each season should have its time. That's in Ecclesiastes, to everything there is a season. And I don't want to see Christmas stuff before Halloween. I really don't want to see Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving, but it's, you know, some things are out of my control. And so this weekend, we're going to have the little boys overnight, and we will have gotten our Christmas tree Saturday. So I hope to have them help us with it. But one of the best things was last year, they were both in the Christmas pageant together for the first time. The first year, they're 3 years apart. Gunny, the older one, was old enough, but Mikey was not. And so this past year, they were in it together for the first time, and Gunny was a shepherd and Mikey was a lamb. And we have the sweetest picture. Robin Miner told Gunny to take his little brother's hand and lead him down the aisle to the front of the church. And so we have the sweetest picture of the little brother looking up at the big brother. Is it time to go yet? It was just, tears. It was so sweet. And I just hope that they have that Christmas feeling all through Advent, the hope and the joy and the peace and the love. So that's my comment. Mike, do you have anything? No.
Beautiful, so beautiful.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Your grandchildren are the best.
I can't wait. I'm getting one in March. Mike, did you have anything?
No, he said no.
Okay, Carol.
First of all, Paul and Kate, you moved down here because of those grandchildren. And as Nancy said, there was nothing mundane about decorating that tree. So you took my words, Nancy. But years ago, I made a banner that I put up that I clipped Christmas cards to. And on it, I put the gifts of Christmas, hope, love, and joy. And that hope is, I think, what sets the Christian faith apart from most others, is that we do have that hope. And that is, and I hope hope really is showing itself, because we are better off than we were 200 years ago. The world, it seems horrible and there's terrible things going on, but it is better than it was even 100 years ago. So there's always hope. So hope sets us apart, I believe.
Good, great.
Wow, that was a great way to end it, Carol. That was awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna do prayer requests really quickly, but anybody have anything we need to raise in prayer?
My daughter-in-law is having some medical issues. Her name is Pam, so I would like for us all to